My name is Robbin Miller. I'm the host of Miller Chat. We are doing this through Zoom because we're still through the pandemic or getting through the pandemic. So pretty soon I'll hopefully be back in the studio, vaccinated, and able to do them live in the studio with the bright lights. But right now you have my background in the back. My guest today is Elizabeth Hylton. She is the author of the book Pelu Ice. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yep, pelu.
Hello, Ifri. Okay, so she is an author, a nurse prescriber, an actor, and a writer now, and from Shrewsbury. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so this is actually the first time I've interviewed an author who writes poetry. I did start interviewing authors like a few years ago because I've been on it for the last 21 years. Well, going on two in May.
Wow.
So yeah, so I know a little bit about poetry, but I really get excited when authors publish their poetry because I just wish I had more of a strength in that area. And it takes a lot of, it has a different mindset, artistic talent, creativity, you know? What I liked about your book, how very creative it was written, with emotions, articulate, coherent in your book. So tell the viewers a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Shrewsbury. I came here in 1989, so I did go to Beale School, the original Beale School. And, you know, I ended up going to Holy Cross for undergrad and majoring in theater. Just always have had a passion and a love for the arts, and that's all art forms. I like to dabble in a little bit of everything. Just because arts are just so healing, I find. So, and I really believe in that, the healing power of the arts. I decided to become a nurse practitioner after majoring in theater at Holy Cross and went back to school in Boston at MGH and studied psychiatric nursing. And now I practice as a nurse practitioner full time. And I'm actually doing an alternative training program in drama therapy so I can kind of unite my passion for the arts and my passion for mental health. So that's really exciting. Yeah.
Wow, it's exciting. You know, a lot of practitioners, some out there, they do acting on the side or sing, and they even do comedy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like me, I'm a practitioner, counselor, and I do this. You know, film shows. Never trained for it. I'm always left brain oriented, but this is more my right brain. So I'm sure you find the same thing with your art, that this is really right brain for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And before, you know, I thought those were two separate things. And then I think, you know, the drama therapy is like the happy medium of how do I connect these? Yeah.
So I think it's awesome. And so let's talk a little bit about your book. The title. Now, is this Pelu F? Is that French?
No, so that's actually Yoruba. It's a West African language spoken in parts of Nigeria. And I had done my DNA test prior to writing this book because I was interested in, you know, learning what my ethnic background was. My parents are originally from Jamaica. So I thought me and my sister thought it would be cool to do a DNA test. And we did find out that we're part Nigerian. So that was kind of my paying homage to my Nigerian roots. And I just thought it was such a beautiful word and, you know, thought it fit perfectly because I feel like I offered this book to the world with love. So that's what it means. It means with love.
And then you write on the back, this love from a woman, artist, healer, lover, daughter, sister, aunt, friend, and dreamer who is constantly evolving.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's who I am, right? We're constantly on a journey and we're constantly growing and changing. And, you know, some of those things are permanent. You know, I'm always going to be a sister, an aunt, a friend, you know, but I'm a human and I'm constantly evolving.
And a pet owner.
And
a pet owner, right?
Yeah.
So how did you get into poetry?
So I started writing poetry from a very young age. I want to say, you know, there was like elementary school where we like kind of were pushed to write like a little bit of poetry, but really I started writing around like age 11. And for me, poetry was a way of me coping with feelings that I was having at the time of sadness and trying to make sense of why I was feeling that way. And it kind of just happened like instinctively. I was kind of a shy kid. I didn't really know how to vocalize or verbalize how I was feeling. And I found writing and just started writing about it. And it turned into a poem that kind of like rhymed, but had like some deeper meaning. And then since there, I just kept on writing. It was just became like my outlet of how I coped.
And have you ever taken classes while you were in high school or college?
So not specifically. We did, in high school, we did have parts of the semester where we focused on poetry. So I got to do a little bit of writing in high school as well too. And I had a really, really great English teacher in high school who really was encouraging around the poetry. So I think, one of the reasons I stuck with it was because of her encouragement and appreciation for writing. So yeah, so I got to do a little bit of it in high school and in college as well too, but I never, took specifically like a poetry writing course, which I would totally be interested and down to take now, yeah, as an adult, Yeah, it'd be pretty cool. Mhm.
Yeah. So it's more like a natural talent, a gift.
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Mhm.
Really awesome. So you mentioned that some poetry, did I read that right? Poetry is survival for you?
Yes, yeah, very much so. I think, we all have different ways that we cope with life experiences and the different things that life throws at us and the different feelings we have. For some people, that's painting. For some people, that's, playing a sport is how they kind of get their emotions out. Other people, it's talk therapy. So it's different for everyone. And I think for me, poetry has been the consistent thing that has helped me like overcome different obstacles in my life and different things that I've gone through. It's the one thing that's kind of sustained me through all of that. So it has been my survival because, life can be cruel and, there's things that can happen in life that we feel like can destroy us. And I feel like for me, poetry has been the thing that's kind of sustained me and helped me get through those things.
Now, is this your first book?
This is the first poetry book that I've written, and so it's very much love heavy and heartbreak heavy. And for me, this writing this book was like a healing process for me, and so I kind of expelled all of these emotions and feelings and thoughts and desires. And regrets of things I've gone through, things that people close to me have gone through that I've witnessed, and it was kind of almost like a purge of all of that, and moving on to a next phase in my life, but with the intent that whoever reads it, if they are on a different stage in their journey, that this might be resonate with them or be useful to them in some way.
How much did the pandemic play into this in terms of your writing? Did you write this during the pandemic?
So I did write some of it during the
Good.
pandemic. Yeah, it's been a several year long process actually, and I kind of toyed with the idea of publishing it. But the pandemic definitely kind of pushed me to publish it. I had a lot of time to kind of go
Mhm.
through what I had written. I had a lot of time to write more. And so a lot definitely came pouring out during the course of the pandemic, which was such a difficult time for everybody. But it did give me the time to do a lot of self-reflection and to make the decision that yes, I want to publish this book. And I think symbolically publishing it for me was again just establishing a new chapter in my life.
How long did it take you to like write? Did you like do each, like they say for authors now, they get up at 5:30. Me, forget that.
Mhm.
I write
Mhm.
at night when I have the chance. I have more energy. Tell us
Mhm.
about the process of your writing. Did you do a little bit every day, or all of a sudden you got a brainstorm and said, I got to finish it by Sunday?
So I didn't have a deadline to finish it. And for me, like writing it usually just comes to me. I'll have a thought and then, I'll expand on that thought and it will inspire something else. Or I'll think of like a topic or I'll take an emotion of how I'm feeling and how can I express this? How can I expel this onto paper? So I never really like set aside time for myself to write. I kind of wait for those little moments of inspiration to come. And when they do, I just drop everything and kind of give them the attention that they need and see what I can pull out of it. Around like sometime in January, I knew Valentine's Day was approaching. And I kind of said to myself, I'd love to finish this by Valentine's Day, but I didn't put like too much pressure on myself to do that. But it happened that I was finished prior to, so I could release it a little bit before Valentine's Day.
Oh, that's cool. Have you ever done it at work? Like, when we get like a downtime at work, did you ever like, oh, I got to write something down? Did that ever happen to you?
At work, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it does, honestly, sometimes it does. And I have like a million emails to myself because when I do have those like random moments where I can't like sit and necessarily write
Mhm.
everything that I want, I'll just send myself a quick email with just a few words or like one line, and then hoping that I keep that inspiration for later on when I revisit it and it's like reawoken, hopefully. Yeah, so I definitely have those like moments where I'm like, okay, gotta send this to myself, gotta come back to this later.
I call it like the self-care doing work, because the work that we're involved with, it can be quite uh, intense. And sometimes you just need a breather. And to me, I do that sometimes. I write something down like a breather. Do you feel that way too?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think it's important. Okay, so is it okay if I read something and maybe you can explain one of your things?
Sure. Yeah.
It's on
Absolutely.
page 14, and
Mm.
I'll tell you what I thought the theme was.
Okay.
There's a comfortable safety and solitude. Sometimes I eagerly dwell there. I'm learning through that there is protection and courage.
Mhm.
So I looked at is talking about bravery and finding a space. How, how
Mhm.
how would you interpret that? I mean, you wrote it, so.
Yeah. So for me, it's easy to I'm kind of an introverted person. So it can be easy at times to kind of shut out the world and just be comfortable by yourself in your own space and your own element. Um, but, over the course of the pandemic, for me, I kind of, because I'm someone who spends a lot of time in solitude, the forced solitude that we experienced was really intense for me because I usually spend time alone, and this was like even more time
Right.
alone than I usually spend. So I thought it gave me some time to kind of think a lot about, the place of solitude in my life and versus the value of having people around and engaging with others. And also just when it comes to love, we can be so afraid of love that we stay by ourselves, or we isolate ourselves and we don't go out and talk to people or meet people because we're afraid of what might happen. So there's a comfortable safety in being by yourself and being in solitude, but there's also something protective about courage, right? Because if you have the courage to either put yourself out there or explore people, places, things, there's some protection in that too, because it is going to be something that will broaden like your horizons, and it will also help you learn something about yourself as well too, and you can gain so much from other people. And I think that's what I started to appreciate through the course of the pandemic, how much that I have learned from others and how much I can learn from others, and how those experiences, whether they go good or bad or end good or bad, there's so much that you can take away from it, and that makes you stronger, right? And that builds you as a person. So there's some protection in that as well too.
Well, I like the next page 15, that says vulnerability. That word, the kryptonite to my confidence.
Mm.
So,
Yes.
so I guess,
Yeah.
how is vulnerability like the kryptonite?
So I think, so many of us are afraid of vulnerability, and so many of us
Of
don't know
course.
how to be vulnerable, right? Because it's like, oh, I can't let myself open up to anybody. A lot of us are just terrified of being vulnerable. And, I think the confidence and vulnerability are two different things, right? You could be a really confident person, but you still can't open yourself on an emotional level to somebody, to let them see you for all that you are. And so I think, you can say, I'm confident to go out and I'm confident to go on dates and to meet somebody. But when it gets to a certain point where I actually have to show my real self and, be vulnerable in that sense, oh, that takes away my confidence, right? Because that's a totally different territory and a totally different uncharted territory for some. So
Well, the opposite of that would be arrogance.
would be
Arrogance.
the
Arrogance.
arrogance. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I mean, the two words you talk about, vulnerability and courage, is what Brene Brown, in her books. Dr. Brene
Sorry.
Brown, when she talks about in her books, when she talks about um, staying strong. Have you ever read Brene Brown's books?
I haven't, no.
She talks about that a little bit about
Okay.
she's done. studies, ethnographic studies. I think she got a PhD
Okay.
about talking about vulnerability, love, courage. She was curious about how do these people go through tough times, but end up okay.
Mm.
And
Mm.
it's the courage, the vulnerability, something that we all feel. We all feel vulnerability,
Yep.
and how it does take courage sometimes.
Yeah, to be vulnerable, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also to even bring it out of the hat. We know, I mean, back in the day, nobody really talked about vulnerability. If you did it,
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Right?
Exactly. Yeah. What is that?
Yeah, she wrote a couple of books, so it's interesting how you say that. Now,
Yeah.
the next theme, because I consider that theme to be around courage,
Mm-hmm.
having courage or being afraid of courage. Like I say,
Yep.
this one I have on page 58, and I looked at it as part of relationships. So it says, "Am I crazy? Am I sick? Why do I love you? When you rip out my heart and hand it to me apologetically." Can you
Yes.
reflect on that a
Yeah.
little bit?
So that one, I think sometimes we can get confused about what love is, right? And love isn't supposed to hurt. Someone told me that once that love isn't supposed to hurt, and that really resonated with me because there's definitely been times for me, and I've definitely seen people close to me be in relationships where someone is hurting you, right? It doesn't feel good, they're doing something to hurt you, whether that's like not, being cognizant of your emotions or if not reciprocating what you're giving, but yet they're still in love with them. They still think they're in love with them. They still love them. And so that one was like, it's definitely like a self-questioning, like, how can I love someone who is like tearing my heart out and hurting me, and you're saying you're sorry, but you're still hurting me, so that kind of came out of that feeling of not really understanding that love is not supposed to hurt. It's not supposed to be painful. Yeah.
I look at that as somebody going through a divorce and they have kids and they have to be business partners,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
Because they're still hurting, or they may not. I mean, but they, like you say in the next page,
Mhm.
59, knowing I have to get over you is the most agonizing.
Mm.
When you're in a
Yep.
divorce situation, even interacting with that person, it
Yep.
can be amicable too. It can be friendly, but there's still hurt between them.
Oh yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And
So
it's like when something like that is final, it's like, and that hurt is still there. It's like thinking about it being over and moving on it can be really agonizing and painful, right? To close a
yeah,
chapter of love. Yeah.
yeah. So I look at it like, why is it that why do we put ourselves through that? That's always a question
Mm.
that I have to ask.
Yeah.
Why can't I just let go? That's a
Mm-hmm.
$10,000 question.
Yeah.
Why can't I just let go and move on? But that's a whole nother topic
Because
to
we're
talk
human,
about. We're
right?
all human. That's right. Whether we're
Yeah.
counselors or lawyers, we're all human.
Yeah.
Um, I like this one. This is on page 44.
Okay.
And it says, "Why do they call it ghosting when it isn't you who died?"
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So the term ghosting has become popular in dating right now, and it's when you go out with somebody, maybe you're dating them for a month, you're dating for 3 months or 4 months, and they just kind of disappear, and it's called ghosting, like they ghosted you. They're a ghost,
Oh,
but
oh,
yeah, so I kind of like flipped it. They say this person ghosted, they became a ghost, but they're not the ones who got hurt. Like I'm the one who's crushed and hurt, and I'm the one who's died. So why are you called the ghost when I'm the one who's that you've broken my heart? And so it was kind of just the play on words. Yeah. Mhm.
I think teenage girls should learn this.
Yeah.
And boys too, or whatever your preference is. Doesn't matter. I like the next page, 45. It says, "Can the heart suffer frostbite because pieces are
Mm.
falling at my feet?"
Yeah.
Not about.
Yeah. So for me, that one I wrote at a time where I was probably very, very heartbroken at that time. And I think sometimes when we're in that level of heartbreak, it can feel like your heart is so cold, like you're never gonna love again, like you're never gonna, no one's gonna make you feel that way, no one's gonna make you feel that good again, and you can feel very, very like broken and very cold. And so that was kind of like the imagery that I came up with for, that's how I kind of like that's what inspired, rather, sorry, the imagery for that poem. It's like, my heart is so cold that it's just falling to pieces. Like my heart is so broken, it's falling to pieces. So is it possible for your heart to just freeze over and, just break into a million pieces? Because that's how I'm feeling right now. Yeah.
I mean, we know now that people can die of a broken heart.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not only
Yeah.
figuratively, but literally now. We know that from science,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I look at it that way,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah,
know?
I like that. Yeah.
So people look at it that way. Very
Yeah.
interesting. Have you ever thought of, I mean, I'm not an artist by no means, but have you ever thought of this, of designing these as artwork?
I have. I actually, so I'm not like an amazing painter or drawer. I do like to paint just like for fun because it's therapeutic for me. But I did think about that idea, and at the time I was publishing it, I had reached out to an artist, but he just didn't have the availability at the time, and I did want to get it published, so I didn't want to wait. So, but I did toy with that idea, and it's something that I probably would consider in the past because I would love to see these translated into imagery. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I teach lesson 9, and what I try to do, um, I teach at undergrad, and I try to use cartoons,
Mm,
equitable cartoons, of course, nothing
yeah.
across the board. And when I look at some of this, a lot of it is really a lot of death, of
Mm,
loss, of losses.
loss. Yeah.
Yeah, how to express loss and find
Yeah.
meaning in loss. So those would be excellent pitches because I think students they like when you have difficult topics, people
Hmm.
sometimes find being comfortable if it's through respectable pitches or illustration.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
So this one I found was about relationship in a family, and it says, "When I was a little girl, my father used to look at me with an air of egotism, as I'm admiring a great piece of art he created, and he'll say, 'You're going to be a heartbreaker. At 8 years old, you have no idea what that means.' But he was the center of my world. Then it came from his lips. So I believed it. Always a daddy girl. I never imagined he'll leave me to the wolves." Ooh, that sounds kind of
Mhm.
painful.
Yeah.
Am I right about that? What was
Yeah,
that
that one was
about?
pretty painful. So, my dad was really great at making us feel like we were special. Me and my sister talk all the time about how he used to call us and randomly say, like, "You're royalty, you're a queen," and he did used to say that to me, "You're going to be a heartbreaker." But one thing he never talked to us about was the fact that we could get our hearts broken, right? He always put us on this pedestal, and it was always, "You're going to be a heartbreaker, you're so beautiful, you're a queen." So it's like I felt really unprepared for the level of heartbreak that I would later go on to experience in life because, there was only one side of the coin that we were kind of shown and not the other. So yeah, so it felt like kind of being in the wilderness when those heartbreaks did happen. Like,
Like a black hole.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm. I think that's a good lesson for teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
Know what
Absolutely.
both sides of the coin is,
Yes.
no matter what their preference is. No matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
Absolutely.
As we have a couple of minutes left, in the last part of your book, 120, it says, "Pacify me, baptize me, engulf me, and send me back home. Sweet oceans of holy water." Does it have sort of a religious tone to that?
So it kind of does. So I am not a religious person. I used to be a very religious person. I kind of moved away from religion in the last 5 years or so and became more spiritual. But I do have like a deep connection to the earth and, nature. And I recently had picked up surfing, and
Ah,
I love being in the ocean, and I love, kind of being engulfed by the ocean and under the water. And So it while it does have kind of like a religious feel to it as well, for me, it's more of a spiritual feeling, and I go into the ocean to let go of stuff, right? Surfing and being in the water. For me, it's a spiritual experience. I'm letting something go. And when I go under and I come back up, I'm hoping to find something new once I let go of whatever it is that's weighing me down. I'm putting it in the water, and the water is kind of washing that off of me, and I'm coming back anew.
That's interesting. That's what they recommend. A lot of healers talk about that. Healthy, of course. Healthy, not drown yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw them surfing at Newport Beach. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. It's really fun.
And the last part here on page 121 is this is not just a cemetery, but also the place of my love's resurrection. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think with this book, in a sense, it's a cemetery, right? Because there's a lot of love that has died that I've put into those poems and talked about. There's, in terms of like relationships with people of my past, there's love that has died. But through all of that and through this book, also there's a resurrection of a new love, right? And a new understanding of what love is, and a new understanding of what self-love is, and a new, experience of that. So I think, it's that kind of sums up the book. It's a lot of heartbreak. It's a lot of, learning, and trials and tribulations, but it's also through that, it's also, reaching at a different point and in a different space in terms of my readiness for love and my understanding and appreciation of love.
Well, with about 2 minutes left, do you have any engagements coming up? I mean, I know with the pandemic, do you have any online stuff coming up?
Nothing online, or I don't know if it will be online. I did get invited to read poetry at a fundraiser for an art center that was just founded in New Hampshire. So I'm pretty excited about that. And it's a place that is, really passionate about the arts as well too, and access in the community to the arts. So I'm really excited just to be a part of that fundraiser because I believe so much in the arts as well too. So I'm excited about that. Yeah, but I will be starring in Worcester County Light Opera Company's production of The Niceties, which is coming up in June. I'll be playing Zoe. So I'm really excited about that as well too.
Is that live or virtual?
They are going to be doing in person and virtual. So it will be both. Yeah.
I don't think you'll be wearing a mask, right?
So yeah, not for the performance, but we will be masked for all of our rehearsals, and we'll all be fully vaccinated as well too by the time of the show.
Oh, that is really awesome. And I know Worcester has their annual Worcester poetry they have. Have you been invited?
Yes. I've just been learning more about their poetry events, and I participated in one of their open mics maybe like 2 months ago. So I'm definitely looking out for other events that they have going on.
Wow, time has gone by with less than 45 seconds left. Why don't you just say your website and how to get the book?
So if you're interested in reading more of my poetry on Instagram, it's ellie.hylton. That's ELLIE.HYLTON. On Facebook, it's Ellie Hylton as well too.
All right. Well, this has been another episode of Miller Chat. Thank you, Elizabeth Hylton, author of Pelu. Pelu, Ife. And thank you very much for coming on my show. And this has been another episode of Miller Chat. And this will be on soon. And good night. And happy spring. Bye-bye.